Hi, you guys. Happy Memorial Day. I hope you're celebrating your relatives and your friends that have served in the military in the United States of America, some making the ultimate sacrifice for our country, for freedom. On this day, let's not forget, although it's lovely to have barbecues and fun, that we need to honor our vets, like my dad, who served in the Navy as a pilot. Thank you, Dad. Thank you to everyone who served. My son salutes when he sees people with vet stuff on it because he's so touched by what these people have done for our country, and I hope you have the same respect for them, whether or not you support war or not. At least support the courage that these men and women and serving all of us. Because let's face it, war is hell.
Arms and legs off of the body, heads off, blown off, stomachs open and intestines strung out for 15, 20 feet. Just a horrible scene. If I had had a camera and taken pictures of it, I could not show you the pictures. It was that bad.
At the time, we weren't aware of all the politics that were going into this. We were fighting for survival. Well, the Marine Corps motto is Semper Fidelis. The translation is simply always faithful. You're faithful to your country, your Marine Corps, but more importantly, the Marine to your left and right. You're fighting for each other. You're 19 and fighting like hell to make it 20. As Marines, you go where the Marine Corps tells you to go and you do what you have to do, without question. That may sound foolish to a lot of people, but that's what the Marine Corps was all about. A lot of veterans came home with deep feelings of guilt. And most of it is survivor guilt. How did I come home and these guys didn't? Well, there's no way to know that. It's not because the survivors fought harder or were smarter. It wasn't anything like that. It's the way of war. Some make it, some don't. But as a survivor, it's our duty now to tell the story of these guys. You can't forget all these men. And their story, I think, simply was they were average young men who, when their country called, they went.
Happy Memorial Day. Let's get into it. There has been much talk about a whistleblower. People trying to tie it to Joe Gorga. Supposedly, during one of the reunion clips, we see Teresa Giudice pointing a finger and saying, I know you were involved in ratting me and Joe Giudice out to the cops during our indictment and all this stuff. We see a little of that happening. So some people who I really love on my Insta reached out to me and they're like, Dana, Caroline Manzo says they know of someone who whistleblew. Jaqueline says that she knows someone who whistleblew. And somehow it ties back to Joe Gorga. You've got to keep digging. And I said, but I swear to you, it says on the indictment that it was the trustee who was the person who actually instigated the indictment. And they were like, well, maybe it was someone who gave the trustees something. That's where it's getting confused. Because yes, it was the trustee who initiated the indictment and really formally, started everything with the Justice Department, but maybe someone was helping the trustee. Okay, so this video is going to explain who whistleblew to the trustee that caused the Teresa Giudice and Joe Giudice indictment. And as we usually find on Dishing Drama Dana, the devil is in the detail, and that is where the answer and the confusion have been. So I dug, and this name comes up, Monica Chacon. Okay, Monica Chacon, you must be saying. Who the hell is that? Well, let me tell you. So Monica is Joe Mastropoli, who is Joe Giudice's ex-partner, Juicy Joe, wife, William Saracino Jr., who is Joe Mastropoli's attorney against Joe Giudice. Here is Joe Mastropoli. Now, back in 2010, Teresa is covered on radar screaming at this woman, Monica, in the middle of a break during a court case where Joe Mastropoli is suing Joe Giudice, and she and Joe Giudice have to take the stand in his litigation against them. It's civil. But what he's alleging is that Joe Giudice forged his signature for mortgage fraud. The same type of mortgage fraud that we know they get indicted for later. So in one of the days that Teresa was supposed to testify, she sees Monica in the hallway, Joe Giudice's partner's attorney's wife, and starts screaming at her, "I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you." Monica responded, "I don't need to talk to you. We both have lawyers." She gets right up into her face. See that? She jumped in Monica's face, pointing her finger and yelling, "You need to stop telling people my business." Telling people my business. Now let's keep going. Okay, so let's fast forward to after the indictment and the sentencing with Teresa Giudice and Joe Giudice. Radar does an article talking about Joe Mastropoli, okay, who again had a civil case about mortgage fraud, saying that Joe Giudice had forged his signature to get loan money under his name, but it was fake. Okay, so here's from after the indictment and sentencing. New Jersey construction executive Mastropoli has good reason to demand harsher penalty. He yet to see a dime from the $260,000 court judgment he won in 2011 after Joe was found guilty of forging his one-time pal's signature on a mortgage document in order to pocket $1 million. Juicy Joe also never paid Mastropoli a $420,902.60 real estate debt, but the sum was swept away by the trustees' April 8 final report in the couple's $13 million bankruptcy case. A link to the trustee in the bankruptcy case. We continue. Now, this is a list of financial institutions that the Justice Department found were defrauded by Joe Giudice and Teresa Giudice. As you can see, the list of financial institutions are there, the amount that was taken illegally, and then the false information that was provided. So Joe is not in this list, meaning he's not really implicated in the criminal indictment to do with Joe Giudice and Teresa Giudice. However, he definitely has been in contact with the trustee handling their bankruptcy. And I believe that he told the trustee that Teresa Giudice and Joe Giudice were fraudulent and the scheme, and that helped the trustee figure out what they were doing, which then resulted in the indictment. Now I'm going to show you further proof of that now. Let's just grab it off Justia U.S. law, shall we? Joseph Mastropoli versus Giuseppe Giudice, okay? This is January 11th, 2016. Okay, for my people who love to really understand the full story, you'll want to listen to the next 6 minutes of this video because I'm going to read you the legal happenings which result in the complaint to the trustee. If you're not that guy, then you can skip about 5 minutes up and get to the bottom line, which is, when I start, bringing it home, as a lot of you guys like. Okay. In 2005, plaintiff and defendant Giuseppe Giudice, Juicy Joe, formed various limited liabilities companies for the purpose of buying real estate. Thereafter, they utilized these LLCs to purchase various properties in East Orange, including 17 Webster Place, 168-170 South Clinton Street, and 6 Glenwood Avenue. In 2006, Giuseppe agreed to buy out plaintiff's interest in the 3 LLCs for $586,000. This sum was secured by mortgages on each of the 3 properties for the full amount owed. In March 2007, the Giudices retained defendant John A. Testa to file suit against plaintiff and his mother, Frances Mastropoli, collectively the Mastropolis. Testa filed suit in Passaic County alleging breach of contract and related claims. The focal point of this action was a property located on Union Avenue in Patterson, the Patterson property, which was transferred to Frances in consideration for the Mastropolis agreeing to obtain a mortgage or other financing to satisfy 2 mortgages against the property in Teresa's name. In May 2007, plaintiff and Giuseppe met without counsel and agreed to settle their disputes. They wrote the terms on a cocktail napkin and signed it. The napkin read $300,000 within 10 days, $260,000 in 6 months. Mortgage on 17 Webster payment due 6 months with personal guarantee. Not paid in 6-month interest 10% per month. Ooh, that's like gangster money for sure. The settlement terms were formalized in a stipulation of Settlement 2, the settlement agreement between the Giudices and Mastropolis, filed with the court on June 13, 2007. The settlement agreement provided for the dismissal of the Giudices lawsuit against the Patterson property and for the Mastropolis to refinance and satisfy all outstanding mortgages on the property. The Giudices agreed to pay the plaintiff $560,000, representing the amount owed to him from the buyout, with $300,000 of that amount to be paid by June 30th, 2007 from the refinancing of Clinton Street. Plaintiff would then execute mortgage modification agreements for the mortgages on Webster Place and Glenwood Avenue, reducing their balances to $260,000, with the Giudices to sign a personal guarantee for this remaining balance. Pursuant to the settlement agreement, the Union Avenue mortgages in Teresa's name were satisfied, and the plaintiff was paid $300,000 from the Clinton refinancing. On June 27, 2007, Giuseppe canceled the mortgage that plaintiff held on Webster Place by filing a discharge of mortgage that contained plaintiff's forged signature. Giuseppe was later determined to have perpetrated the fraud utilizing the Rinzler and Rinzler law firm to have the discharge notarized and recorded. In December of 2007, Giuseppe retained Testa to handle a refinancing of Webster Place. In connection with the refinancing, Testa ordered a title search on the property. Because of the fraudulent discharge of plaintiff's mortgage, the search did not disclose any lien in favor of plaintiff. Testa performed the closing as settlement agent on December 22, 2007 and paid off the liens of record against the property. Testa then paid the balance of the loan proceeds to 17 Webster Place Associates LLC as the owner of the property. In March of 2008, the Passaic County matter was reopened because the Giudices failed to pay the $260,000 balance of their debt to plaintiff as required by the settlement agreement. The case was then transferred to Bergen County on August 22, 2008. Following mediation, Bergen was dismissed as settled in March of 2009. On September 17, 2009, Wachovia Bank initiated proceedings in Essex County to foreclose on Webster Place. Wachovia named plaintiff as a defendant in its complaint after learning that plaintiff may claim to have an interest in the property based on his previous mortgage. On September 23, 2009, the Mastropolis filed a motion to reinstate their pleadings in Bergen on the basis the matter was mistakenly marked as settled following a failed mediation attempt. They also sought an interlocutory final judgment and leave to amend their pleadings. On October 19, 2009, while the September 23, 2009 motion was pending, plaintiff filed a separate complaint in Bergen County against the Giudices, Testa, and other parties seeking the unpaid $260,000 and related relief. On October 23, 2009, in Bergen, Judge Ellen Koblitz issued an order of judgment in favor of the Mastropolis in the amount of $225,000 with interest. Judge Koblitz denied all other requested relief, including leave to file an amended complaint and attorney fees. No appeal was taken from this judgment. 6 days later, on October 29, 2009, the Giudices filed for bankruptcy. Plaintiff filed a complaint in the bankruptcy proceeding. plaintiff filed a complaint in the bankruptcy proceeding. Ding, ding, ding. This is how the trustee gets notified about the fraud. The plaintiff filed a complaint in the bankruptcy proceeding, objecting to the discharge of the October 23, 2009 judgment and seeking attorney fees. On January 3, 2011, following trial, relevant to this appeal, Judge Stern found that there was a business divorce between Giuseppe and the plaintiff, resulting in a $586,000 obligation that Giuseppe committed a fraud against the plaintiff regarding the June and December 2007 transactions, and that Giuseppe committed conversion with respect to plaintiff's property interests. Thereafter, Teresa entered a consent order withdrawing her bankruptcy case and thus received no discharge from any debts. The bankruptcy case was then dismissed, and Giuseppe also received no discharge from any debts. On May 15, 2011, following the conclusion of the bankruptcy proceedings, Webster Place was sold, and the Mastropolis received $330,000 in satisfaction of their $255,000 judgment against the Giudices. So what I just read you is what Monica is about to refer to in this Radar Online article, which the fans, I think, missed because she wasn't famous. On July 30th, 2013, this article comes out on Radar, Vindication for a Lawyer Who Uncovered Giudice's Fraud Years Ago. It does feel good to see them indicted, she declares. She says, it does feel good, attorney Monica Chacon tells RadarOnline.com exclusively. Chacon represented Joe's former business partner, Joe Mastropoli, when he sued Giudice for fraud in 2007. The work we put in to make sure the judge recognized they were committing fraud ultimately resulted in them withdrawing their petition and tipping off the feds. And tipping off the feds and tipping off the feds. Okay. I know, I had to make it into a little song. Hi-ho, the merry-o, tipping off the feds. Okay, anyway, it says, she explains it's been a long road. It always is. In fact, Chacon says she's been aiding federal investigators in their work to nab the Giudices for years. Bing, bing, bing. Our office has had calls from some federal agencies over the past 4 years, she reveals. You don't think it's going to come to anything, and then finally it happens. But what this says is they were making phone calls. The federal agencies were reaching out. So what I just found out recently was that in the Chrisley case, the feds reached out to all the family members to try to find out what the hell was going on with the people that were filing these complaints. So it is possible that in the process of doing this reach out, they may have interviewed Joe Gorga, but she would know it in a 302. Wouldn't be a secret. This is a 302. It's a form used by the FBI to summarize an interview with someone that they're using to prosecute a case. And they have to present it to you as part of your case when you go to trial in an indictment. You're always aware of everybody they interviewed under this 302 title. That means it's possible, but we won't know. We don't know if Joe Gorga did a 302. Okay, but Teresa would know 100%, and so would Joe Giudice. So we'll have to see now how this plays out. So it would seem that there's a lot of right answers to this question of, who took down Teresa and Joe Giudice. The answer is complex. In one way, it is Monica Chacon and William Saracino Jr. In another, it's Joe Mastropoli. You could look at it that way. You could also try to question whether or not in this particular case, Joe Gorga was interviewed with a 302. And, that's could have happened, but no one can prove it or know it. But it could have happened for sure. Now that we know how it got flagged to the trustee. And then technically it was the trustee who triggered the indictment. So that really is the truth. However, there is no definitive tie to Joe Gorga as of yet. So I hope I gave you guys that want to link this to Joe Gorga some hope that it is possible he was interviewed. But I want to hear Teresa say, I got a 302 that shows that Joe was interviewed, and I know he was during the time with the feds because of the way that they're approaching this investigation. Now, they don't always go to the family, but usually in bankruptcy and tax evasion, I found out with the Chrisleys from an inside source, they do. Now, I learned something else on this juicy AF Chrisley family member dishing the drama with Dana Wilkie. And that is that Todd Chrisley used the show, Chrisley Knows Best, to cover his fraud. And you know that he got caught for a similar fraud in a similar way to Teresa and Joe Giudice back in the day. So I wonder, could Teresa have used the show to cover the fraud with the help of Juicy Joe saying, this is, do it, do it, do it? I guess we'll never know. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification button. And a quick shout out to Nick, who sent me a $100 tip for Memorial Weekend to make sure John and I had fun, and Elizabeth, who sent me $50 also, I think, for Memorial Weekend. Thank you so much, you guys. It meant a lot, and John and I had a ball.